Welcome to the Forever Classic Podcast, the show seeking enlightenment through video games, films, and other geek culture. Today we have an exciting episode for you, and with us as always we have Alex McCumbers.
Hey, how's it going?
And our new buddy, Joseph.
That's me.
And Alex, do you want to introduce our special guest?
Sure. So, as many people know, if you've talked to me or kind of been following the things that I talk about on various websites, I am a huge fan of things that are retro-inspired, is like the genre that I've kind of been pegging it at.
Oh, is that what you are?
Yeah, it's the type of game that's like got the nostalgia element, it's got a lot of influence from other games of like the NES, Super Nintendo era, usually, and Shovel Knight has been kind of the leader of that charge. And so we have with us Sean Velasco from Yacht Club Games.
Hi, hello. Thanks for the introduction. Happy to be here.
Yeah, our show is a pretty fun time. We talk to lots of different developers, and we just try to peg down some extra value for anybody that's interested in games, whether you're a dev or whatever. So, Sean, if you would, give us the rundown of what your role is in Yacht Club and kind of your history with it.
Well, I'm Sean Velasco, and I'm a game designer and director here at Yacht Club Games. I was one of the original founding members, and I'm the director of the Shovel Knight series. So that's me. Before that, I worked at a company called Way Forward, which I'm sure some of you are familiar with.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I came up, right? So I learned a lot from the teams over there, and I worked there for 7 years. I worked on stuff like Contra 4, Batman the Brave and the Bold for DS, Mighty Switch Force 2, Double Dragon Neon, Blood Rain Betrayal, and well, I don't know. There's so many games over there. I'm sure I'm missing some, but we all have kind of a hand in everything. So yeah, so that's what I did before we kind of split off to make the Yacht Club and do Shovel Knight.
Now, Shovel Knight is the first Yacht Club production, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, we had been developing some things, I guess, kind of on the side, but nothing that had been released or announced or anything like that. So yeah, this was our first release game, and now it's been a whole series of games, right? So now there's been 5 Shovel Knight games, all in Treasure Trove. We've been working on this thing for more than 6 years. It's pretty nuts.
So yeah, introduced in 2014. What's it feel like now that everything is done and you guys can kind of leave Treasure Trove behind?
We had never really intended on this thing taking quite so long. Shovel Knight began as a Kickstarter in 2013, and as you said, it's a retro-inspired, side-scrolling, kind of Nintendo-style 8-bit game. We ended up getting way overfunded, and as you do on Kickstarter, we had a lot of stretch goals that were associated with the production. So some of those things were more playable boss campaigns and a 4-player battle mode and all these other features. And as we took more and more time and developed them longer and longer, they kind of just the scope of them grew and grew. And when Shovel Knight was released, it was successful enough that we could expand the scope of those games also. So we started with the original Shovel of Hope. Then after that, it was Shovel Knight Plague of Shadows, which stars Plague Knight. And that one was like a lot of new content as we were developing it. I mean, we originally thought, hey, it'll be like maybe like a Richter mode from Castlevania Symphony of the Night, where you just have like a somewhat similar mobility, a different mobility, but you're going through the same content.
Right.
But as we developed it, it became more and more, we added in some more story and added some new boss battles. And then we're like, well, Plague Knight, it wouldn't be appropriate for him to go into the village. So now he has to have like a hub that's in a different spot. And so as the scope grew and grew, we're like, oh, geez, this is more like a new game, really, than just a little expansion, more than just a playable boss.
And I think that was around the time you guys started doing the physical releases as well.
Yeah. I mean, it was a total release across all the platforms at the time, which was like Wii U, PlayStation 4, and 3DS were our big ones. And yeah, now with the final release, like King of Cards, we were like the last 3DS game that they like put up on the shop.
You guys are pretty adamant about getting all those different versions updated. What's that like to be working on things across that broad of a spectrum?
As you can imagine, there's a lot of drag, right? So every new game that we have to put out, or every new expansion to Shovel Knight, we have to go back and check everything from Plague Knight and Shovel of Hope and make sure that we didn't like mess anything up, right? It would be like if you're writing a book series and then it's like you write the 7th book in the series, but then you had to like proofread the first 6 and make sure that you didn't screw anything up on them because your autocorrect was different or something. And we've added so many languages. We've added new features to the old games, although we did promise we're not going to add like real like new content. So things like the difficulty or balance, we kind of said we're going to take a hands-off approach to that. The game that we're delivering to you is the game that we feel strongly about. We don't want to go in and like tweak it forever, right? We don't want to Star Wars it and put a bunch of CG stuff all like in the background. But it has been, I mean, it's a ton of work, but it's all worth it. And now as this package, Treasure Trove is just like this giant expansive thing of 5 games and they're all connected together and it's just awesome. We're really happy with everything and how it's come out. And we're really proud of Treasure Trove. We're just elated that it's all done, you know?
I would definitely say that it's one of the best values in gaming right now, considering I have put more time into the Shovel Knight Treasure Trove than I have in a lot of bigger AAA titles, even like RPGs and stuff that I just kind of like after 25 hours put down. And I'm, you know, well above that with Shovel Knight, and I'm not even done with the main content. I'm just enjoying it that much, and it's very satisfying to play.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much. I've been obsessed with Death Stranding recently. I put like 80 hours into Death Stranding. I don't know how the heck that happened.
I did that right around when it came out. I didn't get an early copy or anything, because again, small website. But I've done that route. It's kind of like meditative, isn't it? Death Stranding.
Yeah, man. Wow, what a cool game. I just love it. I don't know. I used to deliver pizza before I was a game developer, like when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
It really kind of delivers on those same vibes, like taking multiple deliveries and dropping them all off, trying to do a good job, not letting anything get broken, not letting the pizza get too cold. It's just great. My goal is I want to get the platinum trophy, but in order to do that, you got to get like 5 stars.
Yeah.
For every single place. That's just
that,
like, I'm
like
almost done. I'm so
sounds
close.
like the next Shovel Knight update is going to be Delivery Night.
There you go.
Yeah, well, I mean, all of the 3D platforming stuff that they did in Death Stranding is so cool, right? I just would love to carry some of that element into a 3D game. That having to balance yourself and having to get your center of gravity and just all of that stuff, it's just fascinating, right? And there's so few games that iterate or innovate on like moving around in 3D. It was like a whole new kind of gameplay. I was really impressed.
I tell you what, I also listen to a lot more churches now.
Oh,
But
yeah.
Zach, what do you got? What's our next question for us, man?
So, can you tell us what some of the most memorable moments in the time was of your last 5 years with Yacht Club and Shovel Knight and stuff?
Well, in 2014, we won the Game Awards category for Game of the Year. And that was probably the biggest thing. I was there with David and some others. I mean, we were a group and we're standing in line waiting to get into the Game Awards. And we're like, well, we got nominated. Should we try to write should we try to write some notes or something in case we win? And we're like, all right, well, yeah, here, let's go. And so we're writing, oh yeah, here's who we want to thank. And here's this and that. We just totally didn't think we would win at all, right? We thought it was like 0% chance. So we're there in the back, just sitting, and then a guard guy comes up and he's like, hey, you guys, you need to move to this area up here where I don't know, it's closer to the stage where everyone's sitting while they're recording the show. We're like, why? And he's like, well, in case you guys win, you guys are like the nominees, you got to go up there. And so we looked at each other and it was like, does that mean we won? Does that mean we won? Or are they just bringing everyone up there? So we went up to the winner's circle, and it was just totally surreal, right? To be there with other huge game developers and in this giant awards show. And it was all just really like a blur. But sure enough, they called our names, and I had to go up there and give a shaky voice speech about how thankful we were to everyone. And it was just incredible. And I mean, we met Koji Kondo and Reggie. And yeah, just being able to meet your heroes and just being so fortunate to be in this industry and to be recognized, that was really amazing.
That's awesome. When you got the, Shovel Knight is the winner for the Game Awards, did you have that you just dropped off the peak of a roller coaster in your stomach feeling? I
mean, it's I don't know. It was pretty indescribable. It's just oh geez, right? Oh geez. And the crowd parts and everyone's like clapping and you're like walking in between them as you're going up to that podium, and it's just like, oh shit, I'm gonna have to like, here we go. So thankfully, thank goodness we had those notes, right? So I memorized a little bit of who we wanted to thank, and yeah, that was just insane.
Kind of expanding on that idea, recently, one of the big topics is top games of the decade, and I've seen Shovel Knight added to a number of those lists, including ours over at Marooner's Rock, and The Completionist, I think, had it as his number one game of the decade. How do you feel about receiving a prestigious spot like that in a list?
Well, we're just always floored by the response that we get from making Shovel Knight games, and we winning game of the year. People say game of the decade. I mean, well, I guess on one hand, we've been working on it for like 6.5 years. We've been working on it for the better part of the decade. So
That's fair.
So it makes a little bit of sense. But yeah, just to touch people's lives, or I mean, just to give people something fun to play with friends or to enjoy with their family. It's just, yeah, it's amazing. It's totally amazing. Very surreal, I guess.
So what's your favorite fan creation involving Shovel Knight so far? Whether it be like some fan art or one of these editorials or anything?
Well, the Shovel Knight has been in a lot of third-party games, as y'all know. And his rendition in Rivals of Aether is like really, really amazing. I don't know if you've played Rivals of Aether, but it's like a Smash Melee style pixel platform fighter.
It's been recommended to me a lot, but I haven't played it.
Oh, it's so good. I mean, especially if you like Melee, which I know nothing about Melee, but that's what people tell me.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, but just the way Shovel Knight is represented there is like, it's just so spot on, and they are so creative over there, and just being able to boot up someone else's game and to play as like my character in there was really satisfying. But not only that, there's just like a lot of different nods to different parts of the game, and he's just really fun to play in Rivals. So I really love that Rivals rendition. There's someone on Twitter named Sachi who does Shovel Knight fan art, and all of her stuff is like really super amazing. She won our art contest for Spectre of Torment a couple of years ago, and she just does these like really, really neat looking renditions of the characters like in a watercolor anime style. And it's like her style is like it's like I see it as like an official version of the Shovel Knight style, just because it's so good. All the fan art that we get and the fan fiction and the TV tropes page. I just love reading the TV tropes about Shovel Knight, because it's like all the stuff that we put in there, somebody called it all out. It's just funny, and it's fun to go in and read that stuff.
They got your number. What would be the ultimate extra, like, additional content, not gaming related, for Shovel Knight? Like a toy line or a TV show or a comic book series?
Well, I mean, we had the Amiibo, right? That was like one of the biggest things of all, the Amiibo 3-pack and regular
Right.
Shovel Knight, gold Shovel Knight.
It's my favorite amiibo I own, is that little first run.
Oh yeah, awesome. Having those toys was really huge. From the very beginning with Shovel Knight, we wanted to make something that could be like larger than just a game, something that could be like a brand. Like when I was a kid, I had Mario shampoo and Mario bed sheets, and I had the Nintendo cereal system, and it was like you could immerse yourself in things like that. And that was just, I don't know, I love doing stuff like that. I love drawing Mega Man characters as a kid, and just like being able to get immersed in those worlds is part of what we wanted to do with Shovel Knight. So having a toy, yeah, amazing. Having a comic would be super, super amazing. Comics are like such a hard thing to get into, but it would be, yeah, that'd be great. And then I guess the ultimate would be having like, yeah, a show or a movie, some like animated thing, or just more Shovel Knight games. And yeah, Shovel Knight sweets, Shovel Knight cereal. You know, we had
That's something Alec mentioned when I talked to him. He's like, Shovel Knight cereal would be heckin' dope. And I'm like, that's really interesting.
we are on brand, right?
Time to give General Mills a call.
Yeah, somebody.
Yeah, we talk to people all the time, and they say things like the cereal is, you know, that's like a year 5 conversation. It's like oh, you're not like ready yet. When we have cereal, that'll be, I guess that'll be the ultimate, when we have Shovel Knight cereal.
There you go.
Yeah, well, I always think about, like, with toys, for me growing up, it was the Ninja Turtles, and how they just went all over the place. Like, it's not in the show, but here's the Ninja Turtles as astronauts or as cowboys. And it's just like, what? Where did this come from? And they just went buck wild with the toys. And it'd be kind of fun to see that with Shovel Knight. Just like, here's a astronaut Shovel Knight and Plague Knight and here's what all these characters would look like in a different setting for no reason other than just to see what they would look like.
That's a great idea. Yeah, I love that you can have toys with all those different random designs. Where's my Shovel Knight Funko Pop? I'm sure that'll be fun. That'll be stay tuned. But stay tuned. I'm sure that'll be fun.
That seems like a definite by the rate that they pick up things.
That's the quote that we're going to take out of this whole thing and put it on Twitter. Shovel Knight devs demand Funko Pop.
At Funko.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Has there been any surprising requests that you guys have gotten, whether for like a guest appearance for Shovel Knight or anything like noteworthy that's new?
Any strange Shovel Knight requests?
Yeah, anything that's like super outlandish or something that's recent or anything that you can share specifically. I know that's kind of a weird area.
Can we put Shovel Knight on some children's underwear?
I think any Shovel Knight on underwear would be totally fine, and not weird at all. I guess we had Shovel Knight was in a game called Road Redemption, in which I think that's listed on your article.
Yeah,
he's like a fully adult armored man that rides a motorcycle and hits people with his shovel. That was the weirdest one, I think.
Sounds like Shovel Knight meets Mad Max.
Basically, yeah.
Well, yeah, it was like Road Rash, right? And the way that they pitched it to us was just freaking hilarious. They sent us an email and they described what the trailer was going to look like of Shovel Knight zooming up behind these three thugs and then knocking one of them off his motorcycle and then hitting into the other one, and there's a big logging truck and he hits the logging truck and all the logs fall off and hit the other guy, and we're like, okay, we got to do this. This is just
That's so outlandish and weird. When I saw that one, that was the one that I was like, all right, Shovel Knight's in a lot of things.
Yeah,
right?
He sure is. And we've pulled back since then, I think. And the Smash appearance kind of being the ultimate cameo, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to get much more better than that. I guess maybe if Shovel Knight, no, you know what? I'd strike this Shovel Knight cereal. How about Shovel Knight theme park?
Oh, yeah. That's something.
That's what we really need. Is a yacht, yacht park. Or if Universal's going to have the Mario park.
Shovel Knight pogo stick?
That's what I was about to say. Yeah.
Well, he's in a game called Pogo Fighters or something, so...
Pogo, yeah. Yeah, that'd be really good. You could have a Shovel Knight mascot character that kids are taking pictures with, and I don't know. I just living here in SoCal, I went to Disneyland all the time, and that's has been a really big inspiration, right? I think especially as a game designer, everything in Disneyland is just so considered, and everything you look at and all of the magic is so thought of, every little bit of it, that it's like a designed world in a very similar way to a video game.
Yeah.
That's true.
Games are you playing at the moment, or is there any particular indies that you're keeping an eye on?
We got Death Stranding, like I was saying.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I just finished A Short Hike. I don't know if y'all have played that, but that was really cool.
I've heard about it.
Yeah, it's a top-down. It sort of has an Animal Crossing cool, chill fall, autumn aesthetic, and you play as a bird person, and you fly and flap around, and it's a 3D platformer, but more simple, and it was just very chill and cool. You can beat it just in one sitting. And it was just wow, there's a lot of really neat ideas in there. Death Stranding that's really been what most of my time has been going into. Before that, I also played, I'm playing Bayonetta again with friends right now.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, Bayonetta is such a cool game. One of my favorites was Ninja Gaiden Black back on the Xbox, and Bayonetta really feels like it's got those same kind of vibes.
I played both those games for the first time on a trip back home. I'm in Alaska currently, but I used to live on the East Coast, and so I went to visit family. It's a day and a half trip with all the layovers and stuff, so I just played all of the Bayonettas.
Whoa, how was that? I haven't played 2 yet.
2 is pretty cool. It just kind of escalates, so depending on what difficulty you're on, it can feel kind of samey. but it's like a real fun action like romp, I guess. I like God of War more personally from like a theme and mechanic set, but Bayonetta's got some cool ideas.
Cool. Yeah, the new God of War really mixed things up. I don't play a whole lot of AAA games, but I did finish God of War.
Oh, that was such a good one.
Yeah.
My comparison for Bayonetta has always been it's the female Devil May Cry.
Oh yeah, I mean it's the same. It's basically a sequel, right?
Yeah,
it's like the same developers, same mechanics, same attitude.
Just over the top tropiness, just hilarious, over dramatic line reads, even though what they're saying is nonsense.
Yeah, that's cool. I haven't played Devil May Cry 5, but I was interested in checking that out as well.
I bought it. I got it on sale because I love everything Capcom's doing right now.
Oh,
They're
yeah,
like
I know,
killing it.
right? They're just kicking so much butt. Good for them.
I think it kind of stems from there for a while. They had a bunch of different remote locations, and they like pulled internally to Japan. And that's where a lot of these like really excellent titles are coming from.
Also free DLC for most of their games.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, you guys are familiar with free DLC.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Kind of talking about the future of Shovel Knight, could the series eventually encompass moving forward through video game history to like a 16-bit kind of style or even a 3D?
Well, I mean, we're definitely right now is when we're getting our next projects going, right? Like we really didn't have a lot being developed besides Shovel Knight. So it's like we got Treasure Trove behind us, and now we got a clean slate to do whatever we want, right?
Is that exciting or daunting?
Well, it's both, but I think we're really happy to be done with Treasure Trove right now and to be able to do something fresh. So yeah, I mean, just like you said, 3D platformers, Mario 64 is like my favorite game. It would be so cool to make like a 3D Shovel Knight platformer. I've been talking about it ever since the original Shovel Knight came out. So that would be amazing, but that's a very large undertaking and there's so many questions. But yeah, one day definitely want to get a Shovel Knight 3D platformer. As far as a 16-bit game, I'm not really sure we could, I don't know, I'm not sure we could innovate on Shovel Knight in a 16-bit space, but you know what, I'm sure we could. I guess when you go 16-bit, you're adding like way more color and way more animation, but like you're not getting much back from the gameplay. Like we're really a design first studio here, so doing a 16-bit version doesn't quite appeal as much. But you know what, if a third party wanted to make a 16-bit Shovel Knight game, I would be happy to talk with them every day about it.
I mean, Shovel Knight Dig is closer to the 16-bit. It's a little higher res than that.
Yeah, definitely.
But stylistically, it shares a lot of elements of that.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is a little bit 16-bitish now that you mention it. Yeah, Shovel Knight Dig is like amazing looking, and that's like that. Like we're working with Nitrum on that. So it's not something that I'm working on like every single day. It's so cool to see, just like having Shovel Knight in another game as a cameo. It's just so amazing to see the creativity that the devs that we're working with are putting into it. And it's like every time I boot it up, there's like a new cool thing in there. It's just like, wow, this is like so awesome.
Now, speaking of things you guys are doing in the immediate future, how's Cyber Shadow going? Is that still being worked on pretty regularly?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean it's only developed essentially by one person, right? Arne Hunziker at Mechanical Head Studios. So yeah, last time we talked, we were working on story stuff. And development's going really, really well. It seems like it's almost done. I'm not sure if there's a release window or anything for it, but I imagine that we'll probably hear more news about that at PAX East.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's looking really good. And Arne is just like he could just do everything, right? Like, I don't know. I'm like a designer. I do level design, but I don't know. I'm not the greatest pixel artist. I'm not the greatest programmer. And that guy, he's just a one-man studio.
I'm actually fascinated with solo dev things because I love talking with the people, or Tom that does Axiom Verge.
Yeah, Tom out.
Yeah, one of his marketing guys, Dan, I think it's Dan. Yeah, Dan Edelman. We talked a little bit on another project that he's helping out, but I just love solo dev things. So I actually wasn't aware of that. I didn't realize that Cyber Shadow was something you guys were kind of like assisting on.
Yeah, I mean, he's developing it really on his own, but we are going back and forth on like, I don't know, we gave like a story feedback. Hey, does the story make sense? And we gave lots of level design feedback, mechanics feedback, and that's sort of up to Arne if he's gonna follow through on the things that we're asking for, but we try to bring it up. And as a publisher, that's what we want to do, right? If other game developers are going to be working with us, we hope that we could provide some feedback that's from a design and development perspective. But we don't want to force anything on anyone either.
Right on.
That's awesome. So I have one question for you about Shovel Knight one more time here. Excluding like the workload, because I know that you're talking about having to go back and check everything from our questions before. If you all had the choice to add something else to it, regardless of the workload, what is it that you would have added?
Oh, geez. Co-op for all the campaigns.
Oh, wow.
That's what I would want. If ever there was a Shovel Knight Treasure Trove HD cartoon looking version, I would definitely want that to be one of the bullet points, right? Co-op Plague Knight, co-op Spectre Knight, co-op King Knight. And it'd be extra cool if you could play with, like, I'm Shovel Knight and you're Spectre Knight and we're going through Shovel Knight's campaign together.
That would be cool.
That would be awesome.
That'd be quite the undertaking, though.
Oh, yeah.
One of my favorite things was watching the Game Grumps play at co-op. And I just recently, over the weekend, had some friends over, and I'm like, hey, you guys have never played Shovel Knight? Here's co-op. And it was a bucket of laughs. It was just so much fun.
Oh, that's so cool. I'm glad to hear that. Hey, yeah, have you played Showdown? You got to try Showdown.
Yeah, we played that too.
Yep.
So we started with Showdown, and I'm like, all right, now you need to know what the actual platforming is like.
Right. Okay, cool. We worked really hard on Showdown, and I just hope people play it. I don't want it to disappear and go quietly into the night.
Are you guys going to do some major tournaments or like some bigger competitive things?
Well, I'm not really sure if Shovel Knight Showdown is a tournament viable game, right? But it could be a little bit. And yeah, if there was ever a purse, then we would maybe contribute to it. If we could organize a tournament, then that's something that we're definitely going to look into doing. And we want to try and support the community as much as humanly possible. So yeah, definitely.
Very cool.
With King of Cards, you explored kind of card game mechanics, and Showdown, just talking about that, with kind of a Smash Brothers style fighting games. Are there other genres or styles of play you'd like to visit with future games or even more Shovel Knight content?
Sure, yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know. I really enjoy all types of games, and I think most of us at the office here do. Now that we've really put a lot of thought into, hey, how can we make an NES-style side-scrolling 8-bit platformer, doing something from a different perspective, like a top-down, like a Zelda, or doing like a 3D platformer, I just really want to make a freaking 3D platformer. It'd be so cool.
Seems like a lot of you all are into that, because not only did Alec mention that as a top priority, but some of the other designers did too. So you all got 3D platformers on the brain. I've seen those job postings. You do you. Go for it.
the worst secret ever, right?
Talking to Zach a little bit before we started, I had mentioned that it would be kind of cool to play a Shovel Knight RPG kind of in the style of Mario RPG, where you have all these characters with their unique tools and movesets, and how fun it would be to like kind of have these like button inputs that to like activate certain moves and stuff, just like with Mario RPG, and how that kind of like art style would fit Shovel Knight pretty well too.
That would be dope. I would play that.
Yeah, it would be really cool to make a Shovel Knight RPG, or just to make an RPG in general.
Yeah.
We love RPGs over here, especially classic active time battle, JRPG style stuff, but there aren't that many of those being made anymore. And when they are made, I feel like there would be so many places that you could take that type of game in like a strange and interesting way. We could lean into our goofy writing skills and make something that maybe had a little bit more of an action element. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It would be really fun to work on an RPG. I think one of our big things would be trying to make it feel like a little bit different than everything that's out there right now. I was just playing a World of Final Fantasy Maxima on the Switch. That game is so cool. I mean, I don't know. I'm a classic Final Fantasy fan, and so just seeing all the characters and everything represented, and being able to change my cactuar and evolve it into a cactrot and evolve it into a giant cactuar was just like so cool. It would be fun, and the stacking mechanic was really interesting as well, right? Like how you could have like big characters stacked on small characters, and all of your resistances and all of your magic would be like added to one another.
Yeah, that game feels like Kingdom Hearts Pokemon almost. Like it's really weird and interesting.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it definitely has that Pokemon element to it of like monster capturing. Yeah, it would be fun. Man, it'd be just really fun to make an RPG. I don't know. We're bursting with ideas over here, right?
Well, I tell you what, if you ever get to a point where you're writing the inspirations for whatever RPG you're working on, and if anybody puts down Legend of Dragoon, call me. I am jonesing at the bit to be a writer for one of those types of projects.
For
I'm
Legend of
keeping
Dragoon.
Yeah, I'm keeping a very, very close eye on, what is it, Bluestone? The people that did that last Shadows of the Colossus remake?
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of rumors saying that they're doing Legend of Dragoon, and if they are, I'm putting in an application.
Really? That's so strange, man. Legend of Dragoon is a game that you don't hear about too often, right?
I am leading the charge to make sure that people are aware of it.
That's amazing.
I mean, I talk about Legend of Dragoon pretty regularly with my friends, and while everyone else was playing Final Fantasy VII, I had Legend of Dragoon, so all the nostalgia that people have for 7, I have for Dragoon, and I'm kind of like, I didn't play 7 until like I was in my 20s, so I was kind of like, well, whatever. But Legend of Dragoon now, that's a game.
See, my only experiences with Legend of Dragoon was from growing up. I was into Final Fantasy, and my redneck friends were into Legend of Dragoon, but not Final Fantasy.
Mostly because it was cheaper, I bet. It was like a $20 game for the majority of its cycle, I think.
Dude, I have no idea, but they all agreed on liking Legend of Dragoon, and that was like the only gaming thing they liked, so
Yeah,
we
but
became
like I said,
friends.
If that ends up on the bullet notes, call me.
I wonder why. I remember liking the system. There was like concentric rings that shrank, right?
Yeah.
Everyone was a Wingly.
Well, the Winglies were the other race, but everybody had a transformation and a specific element, and then all of the like combos were based on various timings and stuff.
Yeah, it was such a Final Fantasy ripoff, like 100%,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And the translation is not great, but that's kind of what makes it endearing.
Right.
You're
Well,
just like-
same with Final Fantasy VII, right? That game is
Yeah.
so horribly translated. It's like barely understandable.
Objectively, Dragoon is not great, but it is one that I hold very dear because of that like magic age of 12 to 13 where I just spent so many years playing it because I would get to a point, stop, and then take a year, come back to it and get a little further. It was like this super drawn out grand adventure that I was always kind of thinking about.
I took a really long break at one point because my stepbrother accidentally saved over my 40-hour save file.
Oh, no!
No.
Oh, that's the worst.
That was the start of me always having a backup save, which has carried over into adulthood with my animation and video work quite well in the off chance that something gets corrupted.
That's good. You got to have that. I remember I had one of those 8-page memory cards for PlayStation, right? And
Oh,
so,
yeah.
because it could only hold 15 blocks, this was like one card, but then you would press a little LCD button on there and it would change it to the next page. So you could have like 200 save datas. But one day it stopped being able to switch pages.
Oof.
And it wasn't fixable. So I lost like 10 memory cards worth of saves.
All in one go.
Because they were all on the other pages.
Oh no. I'm glad we're beyond that.
I know, right? I think that's what happened to my Legend of Dragoon save, actually, now that I think about it.
Thank
Wow.
God for cloud saves.
The
Right,
curse
yeah,
of
this-
Legend of Dragoon, apparently.
The Curse of Dragoon. That'll be
So,
the sequel.
Yeah.
I think this viewer question that we had was kind of answered, but I just kind of want to reiterate it on a little bit. So if you guys were to do something additional to Shovel Knight, you said the treasure trove is kind of complete. There's not a whole lot that's going to be tweaked with.
Definitely not going to add anything else to Treasure Trove.
Yeah. But would you ever consider doing like either a Shovel Knight 2 or something where you have Mole Knight's campaigns or Tinker Knight's campaigns?
Yeah, well, I guess we'd really have to just sit down and figure out what it was going to be, right? Like if we were going to make a Shovel Knight 2, well, we've kind of dug ourselves into no pun intended, into a corner. Like when you have the Order of No Quarter, it's different than Mega Man's Robot Masters, right? Like when Mega Man 2 came out, I never thought, well, where's Fireman and Iceman? And well, what, we don't get to see like Cutman?
Right, yeah.
You just accepted it, right? And so in Shovel Knight 2, what would even happen? Would there be there would have to be a new order of 8 new knights, and they would have to all be different, right? Or else you're breaking the Mega Man formula, you're missing a big opportunity. But also, I think, just like you said, people would want to know, well, what's happening with Tinker Knight, or what's going on with Mole Knight, or are we going to ever have a campaign with Treasure Knight? So I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Maybe any and all. Maybe we could show what was happening like after if Shovel Knight 2 was after the events of Shovel Knight 1, then you would show like Knight and Mona, and they open their potion shop together. They would be like NPCs, or they'd make a cameo or something like that.
This sounds like a perfect opportunity for like a short little video series to tie in 2 games.
Oh, get that guy that does the Sonic animations. That'd be cool.
Or it's Shovel Knight's kid and it's Spade Knight.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, definitely. There's so many different directions to take it. I think we're going to really step away from iterating on Shovel Knight 1 stuff just for a little bit,
That makes sense.
just for this next game, just like the next dev cycle. And then I think we'll be ready to jump into something else like that again.
Well, it's well deserved.
Yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
we're all super excited to see what you've been doing in the future and just wish you the best because ever since Shovel Knight came out, I have always ended any sort of article like, these are devs people need to keep an eye on because they've just got some incredible talent across the board.
Well, thank you. Yeah, keep an eye on us because if you don't, we'll just take forever.
Somebody's got to remind you, hey, keep on a trucking.
You heard it here, folks. Bug them.
Keep on keeping on. It's just what keep
Keep on keeping on.
Yeah.
Zach, you will know. You will know soon, hopefully.
So basically, this is permission to just keep bugging you.
Yeah, right. You could just send it to my Twitter. Just send it to my Twitter.
One question, probably my last question that I personally have is, like I mentioned before, you kind of have always, with each new content, have tried to add something to the mechanics. So, like, you know, playing as a different character doesn't feel the same as playing as Shovel Knight. How crucial do you think that was with pushing the development forward, being able to work on something new and fresh rather than always working with the same tools and the same moveset?
Well, it was really important to us that we changed up the approach for everything, for all the characters. Like being able to have a new character mobility and seeing it interact with the same enemies and objects, we thought was like really interesting, right? Like the way that Spectre Knight dashes through enemies is so much different than the way Shovel Knight drops down onto them, is so much different than the way King Knight has to bash into them horizontally and then vertically. Really, when you're making something that you want to make it new, something's got to give, right? So it's either the character would have to be different, or we'd have to make the levels different, or we'd have to make the objects and enemies different. And no matter what happened, you'd have to interact with them in different ways. You know, making a game is kind of like doing magic. And once you show the magic trick once, you can't really show it again, right? So once you show how the enemies and objects work together, whoa, I can like slash through the cannonballs as Spectre Knight. That's so cool. Well, you can slash through them for a while, but that's going to get boring real quick. So you just got to integrate something else and make it work together in interesting ways.
The only people that get away with that are the Pokemon Company.
Well,
that's fine. Sword and Shield is fine.
I haven't played a Pokemon since.
But Alex, they're full 3D now.
Yeah.
Well, I heard Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu are really super cool.
Yeah, they're different. I played them very briefly.
Pokemon Go, I mean, they're innovating in that space as well, right? Like I think that's where like so much of that Pokemon effort is going, and it's brought them very, very great success.
They got some competition coming soon with that Temtem indie game, so we'll see. Either way, I love creature games. There's like Disc Creatures, Dragon Quest Monsters I love. The Digimon games have some great combat built into them.
I just want to see some Monster Rancher return.
Yeah.
Monster Rancher, is that where you put? What would you put in there now?
I don't know. I'm really interested.
Barcodes and QR codes.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah. I mean, even the QR phase of the technology is like kind of done now, right? What would you use now to get your monster?
Audio signatures.
Face detection.
Yeah, your audio signature.
Twitter handle.
Your face. You just put it on someone else's face. It's like, oh, we identified you. Now you're in the network of every person that's in this, database. That's some Black Mirror nightmare shit, isn't it?
Oh man.
So speaking of social media and Twitter, if somebody wanted to find you, where might they do that?
My Twitter is SeanyFaceYCG. That's SeanyFaceyCG. And I mean, if you follow the Yacht Club Games Twitter, you'll get a lot less shit posting and a lot more information.
But
so
that's
I recommend that.
That's what I'm looking for.
Well, Sean, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you here on our show today. I greatly appreciate your time you spent with us.
Yeah, really, it's my pleasure. Thanks. It was super fun. It was a blast to talk to y'all.
And of course, if anybody listening would like to get a hold of us, you can send us an email at theforeverclassicpodcast@gmail.com or find our website, foreverclassicgames.com, which also has links to our Discord, various podcast catchers, and anything you might be looking for. So thank you all for this episode. As always, stay cool.